Ooh, check out this sexy thing. Aluminum. Trek 1420 from the 90s. Yeah, this definitely puts sexy back into cycling for sure. I'm telling you what, this was definitely a great workhorse in a gym. Even to today's standards, it's still a great little bike. Any case, if you're looking for bikes to, if you're just looking for an extra ride, or you're just getting into riding, or hey, you just came across this video and went, what the heck is a 1420? Let's learn about that. Any case, let's review a couple of these things. And this, yes, was a garage sale find for 50 bucks. And you can find these in your neck of the woods, I guarantee you. And I'll definitely help you figure out what to look for and what to walk away from after this. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe. Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on this old bike series. Yes, let's go back in time. Boo, boo, boo. Early 90s, late 80s, road bikes. We're losing a lot of kind of popularity due to the fact that mountain bikes became the biggest, latest, greatest thing. No, not that, that's Brampton. Yes, mountain bikes were one of those up and coming. You got like, Richie, and you got Gary Fisher, and you got Freezer, and you got these cool cats who are doing all this crazy ass shit, bombing downhill in the California hills, and whatever. There's a huge story on that. It did crimp the whole road bike scene, big time. And Trek, along with Specialized, yeah, they carried some road bikes. Mountain bikes are getting big. They had some road bikes. They kind of were like, well, the road bike division gotta up their game and figure out what the hell to do about this. Well, let's go into the story. First, we're going to talk about what made the 1420 in the Trek line. Second, is this something that might be intriguing to get, or what to vet for yourself for the kind of riding you want to do? Either from just a beginner, just want to ride with some buddies or your kids in the neighborhood, to hey, I've been riding for a while and I want to try something different, add a different style of riding. You never know what you may come across that might be super cool. And don't be stuck in the Kool-Aid like I have been for several decades, because when you work in a bike shop, you're just kind of branded to that Trek, Specialized Canada, whatever the case may be. Since I've been doing this for over the last 5 years, I have no vendors. I refurbish all sorts of brands, and it had a huge enlightenment that, hey, they all made really good bikes for the most part, and hey, they're still really good. So if you're a Trek guy or a Specialized gal or a giant, no, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, there's a lot of different brands. They have different rides, and I've had a lot of fun kind of cherry picking a few along this journey that have been something completely different that I would have even considered purchasing or riding myself. I've ridden a couple Specialized full carbons and a few Treks, and then, lo and behold, I was on a couple Cannondales. Never worked at a Cannondale dealer before, but they made some pretty nice bikes, and rode a few really fun. In addition to a Titanium Holland and a couple other ones along the way. I'm on a couple of Le Mans right now, and that kind of sheds the shackles of brands. So like, hey, let's check out what's really cool in my neck of the woods. Do a couple little searches on your Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever you want to vet while you're sitting there in the middle of the night in the dark corner trying to, while your significant other is sleeping and she's thinking you're looking at, other stuff, and you're really actually looking at bike porn. Anyway, this is the case of, hey, I found this in a random listing on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, oh, 50 bucks. I have to go check this out. Yard sale save, $50. Okay, let's start with the history. Then we'll talk about how to vet bikes for yourself. And third, most importantly, size and if it's actually going to be a good ride for you. mean, you got size and the style of riding. Then you need to go into the tech tip, or more of like the let's watch out 5 top 10 list, which I'll have in below. And if you have any other bikes that you're vetted or interested in of looking at for yourself, check my library. I have a lot of different videos on a lot of different bikes in which I do a lot of different reviews. So I'm doing a kind of a combination reviewing this classic, and then we're going to help you along your journey of trying to vet a bike for yourself if you're intrigued to do so or take up the challenge. In any case, so we're going to talk about history of Trek. Being a Trek dealer in the 90s in Parker Bikes, somewhere, that really was a pretty cornerstone of our branding. Yeah, they were one of the first brands that we carried amongst Schwinn and, let's say, Mongoose GT was somewhere in there in the mix too. But I believe we started with 3 brands. I believe it was GT because I remember seeing Haros and Dinos, not Haros, Dinos and not Red Line. In any case, I'm diverging. In any case, we're looking at the Trek and that history. Okay, Trek, 70s, born out of a barn. You can check out a couple of videos of mine about a little bit of history on Trek, and with John Bradley being in the mix of it. He was the Trek rep when we initially opened. I started on the scene of the cycling world back in 1989. Oh, nice to be old. And that's when down tube shifters were still there. Shifting on the hoods was not existent. So this is within that range. But what makes this bike special is we live in the Rocky Mountains, front range of the big Rocky Mountains, Denver metro area. Parker Bikes was a southern suburb, which now it's totally a suburb of the Denver metro area. We have hills here, massive ones. Trek is in Wisconsin, kind of freaking flat there. So for them to kind of get beat in their head, like, hey, let's get an idea of something to accommodate this. I have to give it to John Burke a little bit because he was a Trek rep for the Denver metro area during the late 70s, early 80s? No, 80s, something. Whatever. He was a Trek rep. He had some feet on the ground. He listened to the dealers. You know, being a new kid on the block back then, working for his dad's company, put an ear out and listen. Well, yeah, a lot of us are going, those things are hard to climb. And we need to open up a market to people that are recreational riders and climbing those big hills. Where am I getting at here? Well, back in the day, mountain bikes are only ones that had the 3 gears up front. Road bikes did not. Road bikes had the 2 and basically blew out your knees trying to get up those damn hills. They came up with a triple. So this is one of those first models that rolled out of the line, the 1420, where they had the triple. Okay, vetting this parts, I'll have to talk to John Bradley, my buddy, and see what the hot mix was. This is when he was actually either a Trek rep or in transition of working at Trek as a product developer or product lead. And these were not, componentry was not designed for yet triples for road. So they basically had to steal some parts from the mountain line. So you got a Dura-Ace, which is the 3rd level down from the Shimano mountain bike line. So you had XT and XTR, same today. DX is kind of conformed into something completely different. And then we had some weird crank, which was the RSX, or no. What is that? RX 100. You're going to have to see the reflection to see the numbers. That was like a hybrid componentry. So the hybrid lines, the Shimano was releasing like, oh, hybrids are getting more popular, so we'll do a hybrid line. So this is a hybrid triple. So you see hybrids with triples and mountain bikes with triples, but no road bikes. So they have a hybrid triple, DX, mountain bike rear, derailleurs, front and rear, 600, right? 600 shifters, which is second down a level, down tube shifters, and 105 brakes. So this is a freaking hot mess with 105 brake levers. Yes, it was a hodgepodge right out of the gate, but it was kind of a proof of concept because what Trek and Specialized had to do is coming up with a line that would prove that even with the mixed parts from Shimano, would accommodate and fit that niche to push up to Shimano saying, hey, we need a specific triple design for road. Shimano wasn't ready to do this yet. There's probably a little more backstory on that, but history known, being in 35 years of the industry, Shimano is really not the leader of tech. They take the tech that's currently out there that maybe just been released and make it better and mass production. So they're not the ones that come out with the latest widget, greatest thing. That's always been the case. Campanoli came out with a 10-speed before Shimano did. SRAM came out with electronic shifting that was not connected with any wires whatsoever, and copyrighted it, so they're stuck. And now you're looking at some other little brands. Now what's really cool about the 90s is there's a lot of little brands like Paul, White Industries, Chris King Hubs. They were like very really micro, but they're really, really good in their little micro little worlds to make cool little things. And guess what? Shimano will come along and either buy the company or buy the patent or whatever the case may be and make it a little more mass production ready, and bring the price down a little bit. So I'm not saying anything really bad about Shimano. They're just a slow roll when it comes out with new tech. So that's why you have these hodgepodge bikes back in the day. Well, 1420, this is when Trek was getting into aluminum bikes, and they decided to go through the bonding tubing route. So this is lugged and bonded, not welded. Cast piece, lugs for the dropouts, aluminum fork, same thing. These frames were made in Waterloo, Wisconsin. So these were USA made. The forks maybe actually be US made back then too. The wheels, they had their own branding of Matrix, which I think they bought that company. I'm not sure. But in any case, this is what they have, an anodized rim. This was a darker rim, which, I mean, they hardened the aluminum to make it a little more strength-wise, but in the interim, when it wears down, the anodizing goes away and it looks kind of ugly. Then you'll see the flashes where the spokes were over-tensioned on the rim. Anyway, they went with that for a while, and they veered a completely different direction when we met Rolf. But in any case, this guy right here is, I remember these new. I mean, I was like 19, 20, putting these things out of the box. This color right here, you can't tell right now. Check out the pictures at the end, because you will be blown away of the kind of acetone clear coat on this purple. Freaking beautiful. And this model they kept for a couple years. We sold a living out of these. They were easy to sell because, like, it's a road bike, but with gears. You can go climb those hills now and not die. And they were awesome because it was like decent componentry, mid-range. People were into road. You know, they had some really nice road, but the mountain bike scene was starting to kind of take a turn a little. This is really right before the Trek or Lance Armstrong came on the scene. So this is in that dead period where Trek was trying to like and specialize in other brands. They're trying to figure out things to do to revamp it. And bam, lo and behold, this beautiful bike. Yeah, 105 hubs. Yeah. So interesting. These bikes, 1-inch headset. So you're kind of limited on a little bit of stuff, but you still can get parts for these and still ride it just fine. Is it going to be the most comfortable thing? You're going to have to do some alterations to do that. But the history on this bike, USA made, triple, which is great. Where they went from there is then they made a triple with carbon tubing, which is the 2120, if I remember correctly. Insult me in the comments below if I forgot. And then that kind of led into the whole, let's make the full OCLV, Awesome Compact Low Void, which was like the starting of that full carbon frame from Trek, and they bonded it together. And then they bonded those frames for a good over another decade. So the early 90s, where they decided to switch gears, or early 2000s, sorry, switch gears and push all their manufacturing overseas because they couldn't compete, or whatever the case may be. And that's when they switched to layering carbon, which we're seeing a lot of today. Not to say these are outdated by any means. This is a great little bike, especially for wherever my sticker went, $50. You can put 100, I mean, you might have to put a double of that into it. Tires will exceed that really quick. Maybe a new chain, cables, but it's a little more simpler times, and it made it a little bit easier to work on. This one is in immaculate shape, not ridden too much. The history of this, I kind of bought it from the original owner. It's from the family. Unfortunately, the person that originally owned this bike is moved on, and this bike needs to have its refreshed glory and find a new beautiful home to go to and do some great little riding. I'm not going to do too much alterations to this. I'm just kind of doing my refurbishing on this beautiful piece and keep it more in its tradition. Although the saddle needs to go. This is the Veta gel saddle that is still pretty big back then, and the gel in itself has turned to rocks. So that would be really hard on your bum. You don't want that. So we'll find a little bit nicer saddle to put on there. But other than that, new bar tape, maybe a new cable. Yeah, new cables and housing on this. I don't have white. This is when they also did the internal routing through the top tube here. So that needs to be a little bit mindful on that. Not too tricky, but you just want to be mindful when you're doing it. I will take these looks off and put platform pedals on there and inspect and clean the rims, make sure there's no cracks or anything, and also the hubs. Apparently this individual rode the bike quite a bit, but took very good care of it. But the head badge is missing. Well, they kind of had crappy glue on them back in the day, but guess what? I found one on eBay. Okay, I paid for this little head badge about as much as the bike, just because. Got to clean up the glue on the back, but the head badge, I mean, it's almost in mint condition. I'm going to take a little bit of coloring to it and refresh it, but that's the actual head badge for this particular bike in this vintage. So that was before they switched it to the Star Trek looking T. Which I don't know if they ever got in trouble for that or not, but in any case. But yeah, that's what we're going to dive into. I'm going to polish the living hell out of it, put some ceramic coating on it, probably get a new chain, clean this dirtiness up. But yeah, it's going to be an excellent bike. Somebody wants to ride this. The funny little tricky bit on this one too is I rode a carbon 2500 with Dura-Ace for a summer, just for fun because my dad had one. He bought one new. It's kind of just, walking through his footsteps at the Parker bike days of the early 90s with the first STI Dura-Ace shifters. Well, I mean, this bike really felt really good. It was weird. It's like all the new innovations for the last 20 years, 30 years since that bike, jumped on it, rode 20, 30 miles. I'm like, this is actually not too bad. So honestly, if you get the geometry to be correct and fit you, little fittings here, this bike could be a solid little fun road, especially if you're only doing road riding once in a while, or if your buddies talk you into doing rag ride and you mostly do mountain bike riding, that kind of thing. This is it. Or if you want to throw it on a trainer and go the highway to nowhere, that is a gem too. But we will dive into this and see what kind of uglies, if we do come across, for being good 30 years old. I mean, yeah, this thing could drink. It would. I mean, but I think it's going to turn out immaculate. So let's watch this magic. Get my magic fingers going. Yeah, okay, that sounded a little weird. Let's dive into this. All right, so let's do a review of the frame real quick and the parts before I do cleaning. I use Purple Power diluted half and half Purple Power, half water, so it doesn't really, they're not too strong. And this is my first wave of kind of cleaning it off. You can do the spray first and spray with water and see if it would shed all of that, kind of like your non-touch concept on cars, but I know some of the stuff is going to be a booger. But just want to isolate an area here. Actually, let's isolate the top tube. So with this top tube, when you get that dirt off, See, there's like a purple acetone, and these little boogers here. Those are actually scarred, I believe, through the paint, so I can try to buff those out. That will probably come out completely. So the frame, the frame is going to be immaculate. I mean, look at the coloring. I mean, it's still not sun faded. Even the little neon here is still, that is definitely, oh my God, you know, flashbacks to the 80s. I mean, that's 80s and the 90s. That's what that looks like. Took everything off because I want to get to all of it. I mean, look at this crustiness. This just is just dirt. You got your little American flag, made in the United States. Easton tubing is what they were using at the time. Here's attention to details. So got lugged here, tapered. These are bonded. You can see the bonding lines. And these are pinned in grommets, the little hanger for the chain. And this should have the size stamped on the back here of the dropout. Yeah. So nice smooth, you know, connections. This, you know, it's the attention to details back in the day, and its color. And the brace is bonded as well. It's pinned underneath. There's little pins and bonded on there. The only tricky bit is you want to watch out for is these guys. These are integrated. You want to make sure it's not compromised, cracked or anything with the mount there, because you can't really put a seat collar on it. It's integrated with the actual frame. And look at that, attention to detail, stamped Trek on there. It's on both sides. So yeah, this frame, and also has a pump button. You saw me take off the pump, so yeah, that's pretty good. And the fork is the same. It's bonded around the crown and down. Then it has a threaded steer tube, which is, I believe, steel. Then you have system one with Modolo bars, which were popular at the time. These are 26.6, 1 inch. You can get a conversion, convert this to an 1.1 A headset, then you can do a 31.8 bar. So you can convert this all over and be fine. These are loose bearings, which is not bad. I mean, these are fine. It's not a constant moving pivot. So once you repack with new ball bearings, it's good, or replace it with a new headset, it's fine. 27.7, I believe, is still the standard on these back then with the seat post. So you can get a nice carbon seat post if you wanted. Obviously a new saddle. Let's talk about parts. Parts. Standard 105 brakes. You notice getting the cables out are a little tricky. They do have an angle on there and pivot, but you can get those. I'm going to clean these up. Shifters I pulled off too because I want to give them a good cleaning. Also the mounts as well. Here's the crank. This is pre-Diacomp, or not Diacomp, sorry, Biopace. So these are just your standard round chain rings. Not a lot of rampage on these at all. So it's going to be a little harder to shift under pressure. So you don't want to shift under pressure on these guys. You can also upgrade these chain rings if you wanted to one that does have ramping on it. So that's kind of like the deficit back then, and it says narrow chain only, which is really funny. This is an 8-speed, so like an 8-speed, 6, 7, 8-speed chain will work. Shimano or SRAM alike. 105 brakes, ooh, super dirty. Okay, I want to point out the rear derailleur here. This is caked up. It will clean up beautifully, but it's a long cage because you got to accommodate for the triple. And then it has, here, that's where they didn't have the road version of these. They did make shorties of the Dior and XTs back in the day. And also the triple, they didn't have triple front derailleurs too. This still looks very similar, not a lot of ramping to that. So it's not going to shift between this and this guy. It's not going to shift super smooth. If you want to get super smooth, get a newer $20 used front derailleur and some chain rings. Pedals I'm going to clean up and just sell as aftermarket. And also these bits here, getting the bottle cages off. This is a small Allen for bottle cages. A lot of them are bigger nowadays for a reason. These strip out easily. Granted to Wira, this particular design with the hex indentation is designed to help with these stubborn ones, because the standard flat would not be flush enough in there to get it to unscrew. I was about ready to strip it, but this gives you enough leverage on there to able to loosen them up. So I was able to save myself 2 bolts of headache to cut and grind and easy out. So I was able to get those out. I'm going to replace those with something a little bit better, with a bigger Allen than this. But yeah, give it to Dura. Not too expensive, under 50 bucks for a set. Those have saved me headaches for a long time. Old school Zeffel bump. Yeah, boy. Yeah. One of the oh, I shouldn't tell anybody this, but one of the tricks that you would mess with people is you'd take this apart, fill it with water, and inject it into the tube. Very dangerous. Don't do that. But with that was one of the pranks that my dad did on one of our mechanics, and he started going and his wheels started oscillating. He came back super pissed. Anyway, the Avenir, this is actually a Diamondback parts brand, so the Trek dealer was probably a Diamondback dealer too, or somewhere in that case. Okay, looking at the wheels, it even has the reflector and the dork plate still on there. So we're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7-speed. Okay, tricky bit on 7-speed. 7-speed and 8-speed free hub bodies were different. That's where they transitioned to a bigger free hub body. That bigger free hub body, the 8, 9, 10, would fit. 7s don't. Spacing a little bit different on that. If you want an 8-speed or bigger, you'll have to replace this basically wheel or the hub. The free hub body, it's really a tricky bit if you want to switch out to 8-speed, because you have a different length of axle in there. So it's almost better to get an 8-speed hub, either relace it to this rim if you want to keep that rim, or just get a different wheel set on that. Even has this reflector. These have aged to a point where they're brittle, so I'm going to take them off because of just safety reasons. Okay, talking about the wear of the rim, like I said before, you're starting to see a little bit of scarring there. When it gets used a lot more, you'll start seeing like these little highlighted areas. That's just the tension of the spokes. Not bad, it just shows more in any case. It's kind of, shows a little bit of wear and tear on that, but it still has, it's a 36, 30, yeah, it's a 32, wait, 36, 32 spoke, double, triple lace, triple cross, wheel, 105, hub still feels immaculate smooth. Does this have the grease ports? No, this is after the grease ports. Grease ports used to be in here where they can inject into the hub. Yeah, I don't know. In any case, this is the 105 here. And we have a match and matching skewers, which is really hard to find on these. So matching the hubs alone is more the value of the bike. So when you're looking at that, you got the little Shimano on there, super smooth. All right, not as much scarring. The guy didn't break that much at all. The tires you see are just crunchy, delaminated when I put my thumb on it. So definitely new tires on that. So let's crank some tunes. Let me crank some tunes here and clean the parts and detail the frame. Oh, one other thing before I go, switch over to the clean part stage, is you notice I left the housing in the frame. Okay, I'm going to replace this, but by doing so, you leave this in place, you string up your new cable through it, then you pull this out, measure it, cut it with the new housing, then slide it back through. Therefore, you're never dropping it inside there. Reason being, it's super hard to get these. See how tight they are to the lug? There's no room in there on either end to help you guide it. So it's be very mindful. Not that you can't do it. You can do it with a magnet drawing the cable through, but not the housing. So you can see how it goes through in full one piece. So you don't want to drop that out until you're done. And I'm just going to leave it in there until I'm done detailing because it's, I'm not going to detail around a new piece of housing. That's how you do that tricky bit. You can either thread it through the brake cable, through the brake lever, and do it that way, or just put a brake cable through here, slide the old one through, help slide the new one in there, housing, and then you can thread in your new piece of cable. So there we got it. I mean, so far, not bad at all. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful ride. Absolutely. But yeah, after this, we'll review clean parts, and then we'll talk about the benefits of vintage road bikes and road bikes in general, or any vintage in general itself, like myself. Here we have it. So we got the 105 hub, all cleaned up. See how short that is? Well, this distance here, this is a 7-speed versus the 8-speed. So you can't do an 8, 9, or 10-speed on this. It's a 7-speed. Let's just switch out that free hub body, which good luck finding a free hub body to match this. But in any case, it's one of those, keep it vintage, unless you want to switch out the whole wheels. And check out this rim. What amazes me is the stickers are so intact. Like, I got a good coating of wax ceramic on there, and they are pretty true considering how old this guy is, and super smooth. So that's reviewing just the rear wheel. The front wheel is just the same, and this is the ceramic coating I use from Mothers. Seems to work really well. It's not as slick as the ceramic slam, but it does a pretty good coating. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll wax the new chain. Why not, right? Whoever's going to use this bike is probably not going to ever lube their chain, so might as well go off fresh. System 1 seat post from Trek. Clean that up in ultrasonic cleaner. We'll put on a different saddle because the other one's like a hard rock. Here's those chain rings. My gosh, there's like a lot of scraping, wire brushing to get, and cleaning this off. Something, whatever they had on there, just a precursor. That's what they had on there. It's nasty. Ugh. Well, anyway. Brake levers, super clean. Those will be resold because I'm going to be put platforms on it. Matching 105 skewers, even though they don't say 105, you can tell by the color coding on those. Interesting enough, polished versus, I don't know why, 2 different colors, but somebody out there does, comment below. 105 brakes, super clean. The pads look like a lot of meat left on them. So to identify how much use the bike has had, if it has original brake pads and are not worn down, that means this bike was not ridden hardly at all. Old school DX, look at that. Turned out pretty clean. See if we get the model number on there. What was that? FDM 650. Old DX. Yeah, blew up the derailleur. It needed super cleaning. Those jockey pulleys needed a lot of help. I need to put that back on here. It fell off when I cleaned it. But in any case, this is the history on this is a 2-spring here and here versus a single pull spring, which is everything on newer. And from this, they used to have a 2-spring system on these guys. They're pins, so you can't take that apart, but that's what they were designed. Then you have an internal spring on that side. So it'll work just fine for what it's going to be doing, but the new full single spring was like the big selling point of it has more tension, more pull. Here's all those. These have actual spacers that go on the chainring here. So it's like one of those oopsie daisies. Any case, here's the RX 100. So, oh yeah, and we have the Ultegra, or not Ultegra, there's 600s, which is the precursor to Ultegra. So what we got here? What we got is hybrid cranks, mountain bike derailleurs, road bike calipers, road bike brake levers, Ultegra or 600 shifters. So you got a mix of hybrid and road and mountain to make this bike a triple road bike back in early 90s. Yep, that's what I said. Look at those. Matrix, Titan Tech, woohoo, heat treated. Yeah, this is when they started heat treating and anodizing the rims. Game changer, and led to a lot of different cool things in the future. So this is the precursor. Respect your aged products, people. Like respect your elders. Bam! Yeah, I did. I did it all. 3 different polishes. Did the scratch and swirl, the compound I already used up, so I pulled through the bottle away. Got the polish, and multiple layers of ceramic slam, just because. And oop, there's the head badge. Look how pretty that is. It's so pretty. Well, yeah, tires, bar tape, cables, housing, chain, and a new seat. This bad boy should be good to go. So the final reveal, or another reveal, is bam! Look at this. Okay, so we did a super clean. It's going to have chips of the age on this guy, just because of the garage. Let's say hung it up somewhere. We got the pump scarring, which is pretty typical. Pump nubbin goes right there. So we'll sell it with the pump. I mean, it's just, and the chainstay sticker, I can't believe how clean that is. I mean, it looks like it's brand new. It is a 56 centimeter. We got some scarring here, which is pretty typical as garage scarring. Same thing on the other side. But other than that, though, nothing major, nothing too aggressive. But look, I mean, look how pretty this is, right? It has a haze to it. I haven't knocked it down yet. This is the 3 or 4 stack of ceramic slam. And once you take a fiber cloth, you'll feel a tug at first when you do the first initial swipe, and then bam. Look how amazing this is. But yet, this is not it. This, I don't know how many times I built these in the early 90s when they were new, and I was just starstruck on the paint. This is where Trek really nailed it on the paint, and this really kind of upped the game on painting from there on out. I'll show you here in a minute. As long as we still have some sunlight. I'm just going to knock down a couple areas here to get it. And man, I coated the living Jesus out of this, because this frame is, it's such a good shape, immaculately. Okay, I'm hooking you up. Tenge headset. The bottom bracket, okay, the bottom bracket is interesting because this is the cartridge system on this guy here. They didn't have cartridge system back then. So, yeah, either they had a bad bottom bracket. I'm pretty sure the RSX was the same. Maybe they had a different one. In any case, that is not OEM. So there lies that the crank might be a mystery. Is the RSX, that may be a little bit later, what crank would be on here at that particular time? Could be a biopace, and sure crap, nobody liked biopace, and some reason to bring it back. But anyway, there we go. Interesting upgrade bit. Still old school, but it's cartridge, so it's never going to go bad, only when it goes bad, right? And the headset, super smooth. Tenge, fun fact, if you remember John Tomac, a mountain bike racer back in the day, he was sponsored by Mongoose and also Tenge. I have a cardboard cutout we did at the time, and I'll dig up a picture, and if I remember, I'll slap it in here, of my dad making fun of it. We would make fun around the house where we would put it right up against your bedroom door, so when you opened up the bedroom door first thing in the morning, it would scare the hell out of you with John Tomac there, the Joe Racer. So that was like the prankster things we did at home. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, you're like, oh, okay, that's a pretty frame, Justin. Sure, yeah, whatever, what do you say? Let's just show you why I geek out on this frame. So it looks, you know, purplish blue, right? But when you reveal it in the sun, you have the purple and there's a glitter, and it's also this clear coat has a slight acetone type reflection on it. So it just, there you go. There we go. Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. So you get purples in there, some blues, a deep glitter. This was a game changer for Trek. I mean, it was one of those bike frames that immaculate, and it's the whole frame. So, yeah, saying a lot about the color of the frame and so forth. Yeah, let's do a little talk review and then go for a test ride when it's complete. Yeah, let's talk about this for a little bit. Put it in the perspective. Okay, saw the paint job, and you're like, oh, that's pretty. That's a pretty paint job. Yeah, this is pre-Klein. Before, oh no, Klein was around. Don't get me wrong. Sorry, pre-Klein acquisition by Trek. And Trek started making some really pretty paint jobs after the acquisition of Klein, learning all that good jazz. But prior to that, let's put this in perspective. This is on the cusp of road bikes always being double chain rings up front and 7 gears or less in the back. Made it a real bitch to fly, go up mountains and front range riding and any of that. So when this bike came out as a production run with a triple, game changer. I mean, it was one of those people got into road riding again. It was amazing. That kind of thing was fun. And mountain biking was kind of on a decline a little bit at that point. And this is right before, a couple of years before Lance started winning all the tours. This is where Le Mans was still the big name of the U.S. American winner. And having to come out with a paint job, and these decalings from the Trek reminds me like the old U-boat like McHale's Navy. I mean, anyway, it's just like, oh yeah, that's like, on a big old Navy vessel. But in any case, I got a head badge, which I'm really happy to get. And between all the parts and stuff, it's going to get, a little bit up there, but refurbishing this is more than just making a cool old bike This has a little bit of history, right? That is initially the case on this one. Trash truck. So with the history of this is where Trek was bonding their aluminum frames. They got out of the steel market from the 80s, and this is where biking was really kind of cool. It was not just a novelty. People got into mountain biking because, there was a huge craze, and that got into people in a lot of cycling. So they got bored of mountain biking, realizing from their house was a pretty good trek, no pun intended, of getting up to the hills to the trailhead to go ride your mountain bike. Well, they went back to the road bikes and the hybrids. This is actually, attention to detail, stamped lug underneath it, stamped serial number with the size, 56 centimeter, aluminum fork. So this is not going to be the most supple ride. But if it's something that you're going to be doing, a road ride event, that kind of thing, being a used bike and being in really good condition and still have a good time without buying yourself a $3,000, $2,000 road bike, and keeping it under $500, this is a great one to have in the stable. Plus, it has a lot of talking points. Like I mentioned, United States made in Waterloo, Wisconsin. This is where Trek was starting to become a really big brand name. Like I remember in being a Trek dealer in the late 80s, that was okay, but you still had Schwinn. And you still had Specialized and all these other brands. Raleigh was still around. So Trek was not quite there. And this is the model age in the early 90s where Schwinn was stumbling and Trek was getting a big name, and so was Specialized. So looking at a historical piece, this is a pretty slick little ride. And it has, except for the 1-inch head tube, which you can still get a fork for if you want to get a carbon fork with a headset conversion. It's a 31 or 68 millimeter bottom bracket. Although the spacing in the back might be a little restricting. I think it's a 130 versus 135 millimeter in the back, which kind of restricts you. So would you upgrade this? I would not really put too much into it. I polished and refurbished the heck out of it. Yeah. Is it still a fun ride? Absolutely. Will you get a lot of head turners? Yeah. It's like a pretty classic bike in its time frame for sure. But would be your primary bike? Probably not. Let's just put it out there. But keep in mind, this is like one of those stepping stones where Trek was building and manufacturing road bikes in the United States, and that lug system got carried over into their OCLV carbon construction. So it's the same concept with carbon. And then they went with that, then bam, they landed Lance Armstrong, and off to the races, literally, they did. And that particular construction held up well until the acquisition, Klein, Gary Fisher, Le Mans, Rolf Wheels, and Bontrager. And when you got all those different influences in different markets and different, I mean, Gary Klein was the engineer. I mean, he told Trek, well, you can weld. I mean, all you got to know that at some point, and I'll talk to Bradley, is like when you had that hodgepodge mix of influences, I'm sure the changes of the frames when we saw in the mid to late 90s, you went to aluminum weld construction, steel weld construction instead of bonded. The carbon OCLV, they kept the same. They tried one OCLV run with Le Mans with no changes, and that hit the bed really bad, so they went back to just building stills for Le Mans. But they had those lines, they had to keep them different enough so when you were a Trek dealer or a Gary Fisher dealer or Le Mans dealer or whatever, they can pick different dealers in the same market and pull money out, which basically went over like a big brick. I mean, a shit brick for sure. I remember those days. It was like, come on, you know. So yeah, then all of a sudden your competition is showing up at your Trek dealer shows because they carry the other lines, which back then the competition was a little more fierce. Well, maybe just ours was. He was a big prick. But needless to say, I hope the market's different now where people are a little more, you find your niche and stick to it, then they kind of trade off and feed off each other. You got to. There's not enough independent bike dealers, and it's not a growing market whatsoever. Trek ballooned it up by buying a whole bunch and building a whole bunch of stores. So they flooded the market with stores. Specialized followed suit, and Pond Holdings is right behind them. So anyway, just wanted to feature this guy. We'll take it for a test ride here when I get it all reassembled. For a basic bike, I put a lot of extra time into it. Oh yeah, and the personal note on this, I was young 20, right? And I'm working with my parents at Parker Bikes and putting these bikes together, and that's where cycling saved me. The bike shop saved me. It gave me a direction. I worked on bikes and I fell in love with the culture of the shop life, and I don't think I would be I mean, I don't know, who knows where I would have been, but I would say it definitely saved me, and today, even today, it still saves me every day. In any case, this is some cool stuff. It's very vintage. I'm just going to finish her up, give it the love that probably a little too much. And then we'll go for a test ride and do a final review on the ride itself. But in any case, thanks for hanging out with me and going down memory lane on a classic Trek 1420. It's pretty awesome, I think. In any case, I better grab some lunch before I pass out. Cheers. All right, here we have it. Completed and assembled, ready for a test ride. But check out this color in the sun. Oh my goodness, look how pretty it is. Pretty immaculate shape paint, and still as pretty as it was when it was manufacturing new. All right, let's take it for a spin. So obviously it's an aluminum bike, so it's going to be quite stiff. First, I'm going to ease in the brakes, make sure they're working correctly. Yeah, we're good. Alrighty. Oh, beautiful day in the neighborhood. Yeah, definitely a different position back in the day. I mean, your hoods are further down. You're more aggressive positioning. I mean, those all things can be adjusted or changed, but I want to leave it as traditional. So if somebody just want to put it on the wall, there we go. But yeah, can't shift up here. So what do? You have to reach down and go up or down. So this is the triple, which is nice, but you have only 7 gears in the back. But they are a tight group, so you'll find that perfect gear pretty easily. And going up to the big chainring, woo, there we go. Friction shifter, so no indexing on this bad boy. And going down to the small. All right. So yeah, you basically have to reach down blind and do those gear changes, which is crazy. All right, let's see how this bike feels. Ah, yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Fast. It feels pretty quick. Once you got used to the cockpit positioning, sure it would be fine. Yeah, that deters you from shifting more, for sure. But for a decent bike, for its vintage, oh yeah. Show up on this on a group ride, and it'll definitely be a head turner, especially with the color. Get knocked down. Yeah, let's step into it. Oh yeah. New chain on there that's waxed. It'll be super sweet, smooth, silk. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, like I said before, prior to this model year, it's just doubles. Made it climbing mountains a real pain in the butt. Having a triple enabled people to get back on the road bikes or intrigued to buy a new road bike back when the mountain bike craze was starting to taper off a little bit. So yeah, look how shiny that is. Oh man, really nice. Really nice indeed. Ugh. Check out my... All right, one more lap. Check those gears, make sure they're hitting. Definitely have to reach down. Jump it back up to the big. So they don't have a lot of ramping on the front chainrings on these, so you have to go light and polite. You can't really grind them under a load because they're not going to shift very well. The back you can because it has a Hyperglide ramping, but the wax chain will definitely help with that for sure. Oh, check out that beautiful scenery. Woo-wee, trash day, you can tell. Yeah, welcome to the Rocky Mountains. All right, let's park this and give it a little last review. Woo. Awesome. Yeah, boy. Looking at the 1420 Trek aluminum, early 90s. If I had to guess, it'd be like 92 or something like that. 91. It's 105 brakes, 600 Ultegra or 600 pre-Ultegra shifters, 105 hubs, super smooth. Wheels are true with hard and anodized matrix rims. Very popular. 3 cross spokes. Got yourself a Dior front and rear, which is the 3rd level down in mountain biking, so it'd be the 105 equivalent in this time period. They did have XT. I don't know if they had XTR yet. I have to look it up, but they had XT above that. It has RX 100. I'm kind of thinking the crank and the bottom bracket were not spec'd on this because of the different style. And the guy may have changed it. It was from original owner. Easton tubing, bonded together in Waterloo, Wisconsin. It is a 56 centimeter. Look at that head badge. That turned out I think beautifully. Just looked like it was meant to be. Bar tape looked great. Different kind of positioning there. System 1, which is Trek's parts that they used before they went to Icon, then they went to Bontrager parts after that. But yeah, very interesting. And Modolo bars were pretty atomic shaped tech. Interesting. Just uncomfortable, basically. But yeah, that was your traditional bar, which went straight flush to the ground, that kind of thing. But yeah, this is going to make somebody an awesome little ride, recreational ride, weekend ride, short event ride, even a long event ride if they get the right fit on it. I'd assume somebody that just has a plethora of other bikes and they just want a road bike for doing that 1 or 2 events a year. They get talked into the MS-150 or Ragbri or anything like that, and this would be a stellar bike for that, for sure. Yeah, awesome, fast, aluminum. It is kind of, it is stiff, that's for sure. If you're gonna modify it and change it, yeah, carbon seat post would help, carbon bars modification, carbon stem or a stem with a headset on there would definitely help. In any case, that's one stellar ride. Well, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage, and it makes this channel, so thank you for watching. Much appreciated. It's nice in your neck of woods. Please go for a ride. Check out these other pictures in the sun. And yeah, thank you for going down nostalgic lane with me. Because yes, I remember these were new. I was putting them together as a wet behind ears, late teens, early 20-somethings. In any case, have a wonderful day, and until next time, but check out these phenomenal pictures after this.